Hi, I'm Irene Tansman, author of A.B. and Arlene's Autism War. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Profound Autism Summit that was held in Burlington, Massachusetts in April 2024. I'll talk a little bit about, what my thoughts are about the summit, maybe a few highlights, and I also want to talk a little bit about what the differences are between the Profound Autism Alliance and the National Council on Severe Autism. Now that in order to attend as a parent the Profound Autism Summit, it was $225, and if you registered later, it was $250. Was this a price worth it to me? I would say yes, it was, because it provided an opportunity that I never had before to network with people from all over the country. I got a chance to meet some folks that I had been emailing and had been in contact with, for decades, and I never saw their face. And I was able to meet them in person. Um, I got so many ideas from the networking. I believe they're going to make the lectures available. Uh, they recorded them. I think they're going to make them available. But you're not going to get the same experience just by looking at the lectures. The networking and the informal part of the summit was really the that was really the best part of it, really, to be able to do that. And I'm not saying it's, it was very crowded there. They had lots and lots of participants, but I do understand um, the folks who were like upset that they couldn't go because um, the price of the summit, or the price of the hotel room, or price of the flight to get there. Um, you know, I sympathize with that, and I hope the organizers, look at that a little bit so that we can have participation from, all kinds of people. And there were also people who couldn't come because they were taking care of their child with severe autism. There people who couldn't come because they were working. Um, I'm hoping that next year, and I do plan to go next year, that that there'll be more opportunities for people who ran into roadblocks to attend the conference in the beginning. Um, so they had a lot of big names at this conference. They had Greg Hanley, they had Peter Gerhardt, they had uh, the authors from In a Different Key. They had Amy Lutz from the NCSA. They had, and they had, I think that it, it was a really, they had all the big names there. It was very nice. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I learned about at the summit, but it's not going to be in order. And I can't really do the lecturers. I can't really do them justice, but I'm going to just make a few different points. Now, uh, um, Greg Hanley's lecture, where he was talking about how to deal with um, aggressive and self-injurious behavior, big behaviors. And a lot of our children don't have the big behaviors, but what he said actually applies to really any behavior. And I think you'll see that, you'll have Greg Hanley and Peter Gerhardt, who actually spoke first, and all of the people involved with compassionate ABA, Vince Carbone and Patrick McGreevy, all of these people who are of the same ilk, they pretty much say the same thing, but it's a variation on a theme. And basically what they're saying is that you want to provide, you don't want to make the person do what you want to do. You don't want to emphasize compliance. You want to give the person agency and choices, and sometimes they should be able to get their own way. So, Greg Hanley talked about how he does assessments. He talks to the parents and finds out, what the person likes or whatever. And he starts out with the learner getting everything that they like. They get everything that they like, and the idea, which is the idea with all of these people who promote compassionate care, is you're going to make them joyful. You're going to make it nice for them. They're going to enjoy themselves, and then you're going to slip in the learning part. You're going to slip in the learning part. I can see how some people could listen to his lectures and say, "Oh well, they just let them do whatever they want," But that's the essential thing of it. And then they get a chance to say, "Oh, how about we do?" The teacher says, "Well, how about we do such and such? How about doing such and such?" And the learner has an opportunity to say, "No, I want to do it my way," and get his way. Now, one of the things that he mentioned in his lecture that I used right away, right off the bat, he said that it's good to get buy-in from. I mean, he didn't use those words, but it's good to get buy-in when you're saying no, and I'm using it for other things too. Where like, okay, we're going to do blah blah blah, and if they say no, I don't want to, then they don't have to do it. So what I've been doing is I've been asking my son, okay, you know what? I think you've had enough cookies. Is it okay if I put it away? And he says, okay, and that seems to help a lot. Right? Very simple idea, but that really helped. Really helped. Did you want to get the buy-in? Now, one of the things that Greg Hanley basically was talking about his assessment, how he does his assessment, and how it's better than a functional behavior assessment, and how he gets rid of maladaptive behaviors. And he said, "Oh, we're going to reinforce the bad behavior." It's not exactly reinforcing the bad behavior what he's doing, but and he probably shouldn't have put it that way. But that's basically what his lecture was about. And he said in his lecture that we've known some of these things for 14 years. I think we probably knew it a long time ago that people, tend to behave nicer if they have an opportunity for buy-in, if they have an opportunity for choice. When you're always telling somebody what to do this and do this and do this and do this, and you never get a chance to do what you want, they don't like it. That's what he was talking about. They don't like that. People want to have choices. They want to have choices. They want a chance to do what they want to do. And you have to give them that choice. You have to give them that agency. You can't be the boss all the time. And he says, "Oh, well, it's been 14 years. Well, how come people haven't caught on to this yet?" Well, I'll tell you why they haven't caught on to this yet. It's because there's a lot of people in this field who love control. They love control. and they don't want the parents' input. They want to do it all their way, and that's that. And they want it their way, and they want it their way with the individual as well. So we have 14 years, and we knew that we could. There's ways that we can get rid of uh, uh, aggressive and self-injurious behaviors, but we don't implement it. We're not doing that, and that that's a problem. And one of the things that he said was, I would not let my daughter work in one of these places because they're, the folks who are working there, the DSPs, are at high risk for having somebody attack them in an aggression because they're not doing everything they can to mitigate the aggressions. They're not doing it. They want to do things like they did it years and years ago, and they don't want to. They don't want to take, implement things that the research has told them for 14 years. And he says he's getting annoyed, and I don't blame him. But that was a very interesting insight to the DS, what I would consider an insight to one of the reasons for the DSP crisis, because nobody likes to be hit, punched, slapped, bitten, things like that. And I think that there should be an obligation to do whatever you can do in order to protect these people who are working with people with profound autism, to protect them. And if you need to use the latest methods, you should use the latest methods and put your ego aside. So it was actually a wonderful lecture. He talked a lot about in behavioral terms. He was really gearing it a lot to the BCBAs in the audience, but I caught the I caught the gist of it, and I agree with him, and I was able to implement some of those ideas. So especially the ones where I'm going to tell my son something that maybe he doesn't like so much. I ask him if that's okay, and he says it's okay. Sometimes he says no, it's not okay, and I just let him do what I let him have that agency that he can say that, okay, I don't want to do it. And it's really only common sense, but there's research to back it up, and this is this was the gist of his lecture. Then this actually Peter Gerhardt and Shanna Bari spoke first, and they talked about meaningful goals. And they had they have a new book out, Make It Meaningful, which might be worthwhile to read. I might review that one also. And they discussed meaningful goals to prepare for adulthood. And I would have to say that my son was not prepared to survive adult services. And they talked about what were their most important skills, and one of the highlights, Peter Gerhardt says, "Oh, the problem is we suck," and everybody started to laugh. But it's actually kind of true, because he sees that they hit the adult services, they don't know how to wipe their rear ends, putting them at risk for sexual abuse and things like that. They're not independent, they don't know how to care for themselves, but yet they were doing some other goals that were so totally meaningless in adult services. So so that was basically what their lecture was about. one of the highlights of his talk was he said we have to um, we have to try to uh, make look at goals and objectives, and when we're looking at the person, we need to be strength based. And then there were a lot of groans in the audience. I was one of the ones who groaned because we're all sick of being told you can't say deficit, you can't say treatment, you can't say this, you can't say that, and we're all moaning and groaning. And then he said, "Oh well, when I said we suck, everybody was happy." It's very funny. Um, Even though I moaned and groaned when I heard that, I I think he's right, especially when you're going to have a term out there, profound autism, because you have the term profound autism, and the next thing that you're going to hear is, well, you can't expect us to teach so and so, thus and such, because the person is too impaired. You have to talk about the person's strength. He's actually right. We can't be reactionary. Can't we have to be able to uh, uh, think of our learners in strength-based terms and feel that they're going to be able to and believe that they're going to be able to progress with the right help. That's very different from thinking, well, it has an intact mind inside. That's different, and we don't want to go overboard with thinking about, you know, uh, um, you know, that they have certain deficits. So he was actually right, despite all the moans and groans. He was right, and actually, it was important to hear it. Now I can keep it in my mind. Now we had Jennifer Neal, who's a BCBA and a speech therapist from the Evergreen Center, speak, and boy was she terrific. Now, when my son was young, Evergreen Center was, eh, it was no big deal. The Disability Law Center went in there and found all kinds of problems. We interviewed a respite worker who told us, "Oh, don't even think of sending your son there. That's a very bad. Don't do it." Now, after hearing Jennifer Neal speak, I think sometimes people ask me, "Well, what what are the good autism schools for under 22?" And I go like, I don't know. But now I know from going to the summit, the best places for a young kid under 22 are the Evergreen Center and the Neshoba Learning Group. Those are the two best. Jennifer Neal, um, basically, she believes in using AAC for everyone, from the lowest of the low functioning to the highest of the high functioning. And there is nobody who's not a candidate. You're going to look at each person. And she explained, oh, yeah, but we're all using augmentative communication. We're not all just talking. We're FaceTiming, we're texting, we're this and we're that. We're doing, you know, we have to look at, in the higher functioning realm, we have to look at, well, what kind of augmentative communication do they need? And also, in the profound side, you have to look at what does that person need? It might be a little simpler if the person is more disabled, but this idea that, oh well, so and so is not a candidate, she threw it right out the window. She threw it right out the window. Now she talked about other things about how to do oh, another thing she said was, it doesn't matter so much what device you use. I always thought that just basically you want the device should be the device that the individual prefers, and that that the more important thing is to use it correctly and consistent. So um, so she was great. She was great. I thoroughly enjoyed her lecture, and um, I actually thought that Amy Lutz from the National Council on Severe Autism, she talked about autism in the media and the situation with uh, you know with the neurodiversity movement and how it's affected us. And I've heard her speak many times before, but it's so important, and probably the reason why we even have the Profound Autism Alliance and the NCSA. Um, so I thought that she was very good. Um, Now there was a little cringe point, and that cringe point was there was a lifespan panel, and Maura Sullivan from the ARC said, "Oh, make sure that you register your loved ones, your children, to vote." And these are all people with profound autism who do not understand the concept of voting. And I sat there and I cringed. So that was a little bit of a low point there. Um, and that leads me to my discussion about what's the difference between the NCSA and the Profound Autism Alliance. Now, the NCSA is very, very clear on what that they don't believe that there's anybody. They don't believe in the intact mind behind profound autism. You won't ever see somebody on an Autism Confidential webinar saying that our kids should be voting. That's never going to happen. On the other hand, the Profound Autism Alliance seems to be trying to make alliances all over the place. Now, they want certain changes to the Autism Cares Act, and several organizations have gotten on board with it, but the ARC hasn't. So perhaps she can get Maura Sullivan on board with it. That would really change things. If Maura Sullivan from the ARC was on board with changes to the Autism Care Act, if she was on board with having choice for families, choice of models of care from the families and the individuals, rather than having groups of people like disability rights, the Autism Self-Advocacy Network, and the ARC. They're like a moral authority, and they decide what models of care are morally okay. And if they change their viewpoint and said, well, you know what? We think all of these models should be available, and we think that the parents and the families are the ones who should decide, not us. If they did that, that would be a game changer. And maybe she could do that by making an alliance with them. So they have alliances with providers and with the ARC and with all of these other places. NCSA probably would never do that. Now, you can correct me. This is my opinion of what the differences are, and I do think it's good to join both groups because they're both doing different things, and I felt very much, I felt some kind of hope that I didn't feel before the conference, and I'm looking forward to going back again next year to the Profound Autism Alliance Conference. So thank you for listening to my conversation. I hope you'll put comments if you disagree with me, if you feel I've been inaccurate. Oh, by the way, I'm not an expert. I'm just a mom. If you think I got it wrong, please feel free to put that in the comments. My word is not this is not, the last word on the subject. If you think, please feel free to correct me. So I hope that I've given you some idea about what happened at the conference, especially if you didn't get to go. We didn't get to see all of the lecturers because that you would have like a choice of two, so you couldn't see all of them anyway. But I hope this gives you a little taste of what it was like. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.